What's going on, Ventric here? Old school Magic is a format I've known about for some time, but never really paid a lot of attention to. With the lockdowns of the pandemic, I started harkening back to the good old days of Magic. I started playing in 1994, and some of my fondest memories are playing in that limited format, this 93-94 format where you knew all the cards, you knew what they did, and it was just fun times. So I decided this is a format I want to get into. I want to feel the way I felt when I was a teenager playing Magic again with some of these great old cards. So I scoured my collection and found what I had. I watched a lot of videos. Edwin the Magic Engineer is a great resource for old school, and he has some great videos on that. There's also Eternal Central. There's the Northern Paladins, a bunch of these great groups that have a bunch of deck lists. Well, not deck lists, you take pictures in old school Magic, and just to get an idea of the format and get a feel for what you want to play. So I decided I was going to go through my collection, see what I had, what I was missing. I picked up some cards along the way. There's still some more to pick up. And so what I'm going to do here is show you my toolkit or toolbox that I built so that I can build most decks in the format, so I can play whatever I want against all of these great people who are part of this format who are reliving that nostalgia. So let's just go through what I've put together. It may help you out if you're getting into it as well. Maybe you'll see cards that you're like, oh yeah, I remember that card. I want to have that in my collection, or I forgot about that. Let me put that in. And maybe I'm missing something. If you think I'm missing something, let me know as well, because I want to know. I want to put together this comprehensive toolkit for old school. All right, so let's get started. First page, of course, we've got the Power 9. Not a requirement, but it definitely helps you get there. There are some budget decks you can play without that. We've got the Black Lotus, the Mox Emerald, the Mox Jet, the Mox Pearl, the Mox Ruby, the Mox Sapphire, and of course Ancestral Recall, Time Walk, Time Twister. All very iconic cards, very, very powerful. You can do some degenerate things with them. Most decks are going to want some, if not all of these. We've got the best removal card in the format, the Chaos Orb. Flip it from a foot above the table. Take out anything you want. Single target. Time Vault, I only have one. I kind of want to have more. There's a Twiddle Vault deck that looks, well, I guess if you want to play Solitaire, you play Twiddle Vault. But it looks like I would like to have that in my arsenal. I only own one. I'm going to have to pick up one or two more. That's pricey, so that's down the road. Library of Alexandria, again, a staple of the format. So powerful, so busted if you can play this on turn one or when you have 7 cards and just ramp up your card draw. Let's move on to the back side. This is where I've kind of got some of the power or the more prestige cards here. Argivian Archaeologist doesn't see a lot of play, but you can do some fun shenanigans with it. Bringing back your Chaos Orb over and over again, or bringing back your Black Vice, or things along those lines once they've been destroyed. Bringing back your Moxes, anything. Mana Drain, very powerful. It's restricted in the format. Very, very powerful. I only have one. Only really need one because it's restricted. Counter target spell. And you gain that much mana during your next main phase. It can hurt you if you don't have anything to cast, because Mana Drain is a thing in old school. Aside from Mana Drain, all the other rules follow modern day rules, with mana burn being the only real difference. Got a couple copies of the Abyss here. I had one. I just picked up another one. I went with Italian Legends because it's about a quarter the price to a fifth the price of an English one. I know what it does. Everyone knows what it does. So we're gonna go with the Abyss. 2 copies is all you really need. It's an enchant world. Have a Mizra's Workshop here. Again, a very powerful card. You can pump stuff out on turn 1. You can pump out a Suchi, a Juggernaut on turn 1 with that. It's tough times for your opponent if they can't answer it. Wheel of Fortune, card draw. Red, you empty your hand. You need to fill it back up. It also works with strategies like Underworld Dreams and the Black Vice, just to hurt your opponent even more. Sylvan Library, card selection, sees play in some decks. Transmute Artifact again. Can turn anything on the deck into what you need. If you need to get your Mirror Universe, your City in a Bottle, your Soul Ring, your Lotus, you can turn any other artifact you have on the board into that. Tutor it up. Speaking of which, Soul Ring, again, very powerful in every format it's allowed in. It's powerful here. City in a Bottle. Some of the best creatures in the format are from Arabian Nights. Jazam Jin, Serendib Jin. So you can just wipe those off the board. Even lands The Library of Alexandria, you can take that out. So very powerful. There's an empty spot here because most decks that play this play two, either in the sideboard, some of them even main deck, even main board, depending on the meta. And so I have actually ordered a second one. Mirror Universe sees some limited play, swapping lives in the upkeep. If you're a control deck and you haven't done much damage to your opponent all game, but he's got you down at 2 or 3, you can just flip your lives and bolt them to death, or flip your lives and hit them with your Mizra's Factory. Next up, mana bases in Old School are pretty bad when you're trying to play multiple colors. So City of Brass, at the cost of doing a damage to you when you tap it, can get you any color, can help fix your mana. It's a staple in the format. I've got 4 of them. A lot of decks play 2 to 4 if they're multicolor. Maze of Ith, a lot of big baddies in this thing, in this format, Shivan Dragon, things like that. It also allows you to defend better. Like you attack with 2, whatever they block, if you're like attacking into a bigger creature, you can just pull that one back and your other one hits. So, and a lot of shenanigans with Maze of Ith. And again, and then we get back to the factories. These things are a staple of the format. Almost every single deck plays them. They're a land, they're a creature, they can't get Wrath of God in the way, only instant speed, artifact removal when you turn them into a creature, or creature removal is going to get them. So, and control decks are a great way. You protect them, and then they're your finisher. So again, great cards. Strip Mine. In Eternal Central, 4 are legal. In Atlantic, only 1 is legal. Same with over in Sweden. Again, like there's a lot of powerful lands in this format. As you can see, we got the dual lands here. You got the Library of Alexandria. You got the Mizra's Workshop. So these are a staple. If you can use them, use them. Pendelhaven. There actually should be an Urborg here as well. Pendelhaven, I've got a couple more coming in. Seen in green decks. Pump up your little 1/1s. Hammerheim. Again, it removes land walking abilities. Sometimes that's a thing. If you're playing with an Urnum in a red-green deck, you can. It has to give something Forest Walk. You can remove the Forest Walk. And then there should be an Urborg there. I forgot to put it in. Then we get into the dual lands. I'm missing a couple here. I need to pick them up. Got our Badlands, our Bayous. I'm missing 2. That's a priority. I got to pick up 2 more Badlands. Plateau, I'm missing 1. Not as big a priority. Savannah, if I ever want to play like an Urnum-Geddon deck, I need to get a couple more. So they're a priority. And then the only other one I'm missing is a Scrubland. Not as big a priority, but I will get there. Then we've got our Taigas, our Tropical, our Trops. I've got all the blue, the Tundra, the Underground Sea, the Volcanic Island. Okay, now we're going to get into white. Here we got, like, the most powerful white card in the format is Balance. It can just turn games around. You could be behind. You could have no creatures in play. You're facing lethal with a big Alpha Strike next turn, and you can just wipe it out. They may have 7 cards. You may be down to 1. Again, huge tempo swing. Just balance them down to 1 card, and you're back on even playing field. Greater Realm, not seeing as much play, but it protects you against red and black. So it's in there. Armageddon, we mentioned the Urnum-Geddon deck. Sometimes you get some creatures on the board, you blow up your opponent's lands, and that's just game over. Got the Circle Protection Black and Circle Protection Red. Same story. A lot of red and black creature-based decks, or even lightning bolts. Disintegrates, fireballs, just keep you alive. These guys are a little bit fringe, the Acacian Lieutenants. They're soldiers. They're 1/2s for 2, but they can pump themselves or other soldiers. Card we can't really mention the name of because of reasons, but there we go. Pumps all your white creatures. Disenchant, got a couple betas, a couple time shifted. We should mention in like Eternal Central Atlantic, you can play any card that has original art and original frame. So these time-shifted cards are legal here. Over in Europe, they're not so nice on the time-shifted, but things are going to change. Divine Offering blows up artifacts, gains you life, so it can be a nice 2-for-1. You're low on life, you're in bolt range of your opponent. You can blow up your own artifact, or their artifact, preferably, gain some life, and try to stay in the game. Dust to Dust. Artifacts are very powerful. Same reason for Divine Offering. You take it to 2-for-1. You take out 2 of their artifacts for the cost of 1 spell. So it's a win-win. Acacian Javelineers, again, kind of fringe in a white weenie. It's a soldier, so it goes with the lieutenant, and it can also do a 1-use Timping. Land Tax, very powerful card. Seen a lot of white decks in the Land's Edge tax decks. Keep your mana below theirs and just fill your hand, and you've got cards to throw at them with Land's Edge, or just cards to discard for other reasons into a recall or something along those lines. Order of Lightburr, Pump Knights. Well, they're not really knights. They're clerics. They call them knights because they were reprinted in Ice Age as a knight. But the big key with them is protection from black. Abyss is a thing. As you saw, I have to control plays Abyss. A lot of decks play Abyss, and they are Abyss proof because Abyss is a targeted ability, cannot target pro-black, so the orders laugh at the Abyss and punch you in the face. Savannah Lions, quick damage. 2-1 for 1. They're chump blockers, or they're going to keep punching you if you can't deal them. Sarah Angel, one of the most powerful creatures in the format. Always was back in the day. 4/4 flyer for 5. So it has evasion. Not a lot of people run flyers. There are some flyers, but not a lot. And it's vigilant. So it can attack and block. And it's a big body. It eats most of the things in the format. So it's pretty scary if you can't deal with it. Swords, best removal in the format. Sure, it gives your opponent some life, but it can also give you life. If you're like down to your last life and you've got a creature that's going to get eaten by the Abyss, swords it, gain the life, buy yourself another turn or two. And again, it exiles, so it takes out anything. No regeneration, none of those shenanigans. It's just gone from the game. Plus, if you're using things like Time Twister, that's going to shuffle their library back in, or shuffle the graveyard back in, they're not going to get those cards back because they were exiled. Tundra Rolls, just 1/1 First Strikers for 1. Vanilla. White Knight, same with the order. Protection from black. First Strike's not as big a thing because they're only a 2/2. But it's there. And again, pro-black. Get around the Abyss. That's the biggest thing. Wrath of God. Board sweeper. What else to be said? Spirit Link can serve multiple purposes. You can throw it on your creatures, gain a bunch of life while beating your opponent down, or you can use it to stonewall your opponent's creatures. Like they have something that's their Shivering Dragon is gonna kill you next turn. You throw a Spirit Link on it, it just negates it. Sure, they can attack, but you're gonna gain as much life as they deal damage, so you just negate their damage. So there's no point in them attacking with it. And if they block with it, you gain that life. So hey, win-win. I'll get into the blue. Brain Geyser, very powerful card. Just refill your hand late in the game, mana sink. Or if your opponent's near the end of the library, you can draw them out of their deck and have them die when they can't draw a card. Copy Artifact is an empty spot here. I'm going to pick up another one. I actually have some in Commander deck and another one in this set, but I think I'm going to pick up another one. Just very powerful. It can become any artifact in play. So you can even activate your Mission Factory. And then your Copy Artifact becomes a copy of that land. It's now a land that can turn into an artifact creature. Great. Alternative Djinn, see some play in red-blue counterburn as a one-of. It's a big beater, 5/6 flyer. You got to sacrifice a land every turn, but if it's going to win you the game, you don't mind if you lose a couple lands. Blue Ellie Blast, it stops red spells. It's 1 blue, counterspell basically against anything red wants to do to you. Boomerang, it's a way to get things off the battlefield. Like blue does not have a way to deal with enchantments at all. If an enchantment lands against blue, they have no way of getting rid of it other than bouncing it back to the opponent's hand and then countering it when they try to cast it again, or using something else like a Mind Twist or something to get rid of it, or wheel it away or something along those lines. So again, it's mainly like to deal with things that blue can't deal with. Control magic, steal your opponent's creature. It's pseudo removal and gives you their best creature. Counterspell, what else to be said? It's blue, it's control. Energy Flux. Now, this is kind of like the poor man's favorite card. If you're playing like a budget deck, you run 4 of these and you just laugh at your opponent goes like mox, whatever, and then all of a sudden you put a upkeep cost of 2 on it, then they're just going to end up losing their moxes, losing their artifacts, and you can kind of even out the playing field. Again, a lot of decks that don't run a lot of artifacts, again, you can just totally destroy artifact-based decks with Energy Flux. Flying Men. Again, 1/1 classics, 1/1 flyer for 1. Just quick little ping damage from blue. Hurkyl's Recall can be used in 2 different ways. A, to just totally set your opponent back. Get a huge tempo advantage by like bouncing all their artifacts back to their hands. Or you can use it to protect your own things. Someone's got a disc in play, they're going to pop the disc. You can recall all your artifacts back to your hand, replay them the next turn. Or if they're trying to disenchant or shatter something that you really need, bounce it back to your hand, play it again next turn. Power Sink, just another counterspell to add to your arsenal. Psyblast. There's a lot of creatures out there that Lightning Bolt does not kill. Psyblast does. And it can target opponents Does a little bit of damage to you. It's Blue's way of just doing everything. Got reach, destroy big baddies like Serendib Jin, speaking of which. Recall, again, control deck card, bring back as many cards as you can that are going to help you either combo off or control the game. Serendib, one of the, if not, probably the best creature in the format. For 3 mana, it's a 3/4 flyer. It pings you every turn, but the clock this just puts on your opponent is insane. Spell Blast, just another counter spell. Stasis, I'm not really a Stasis kind of guy, but they're in there in case I ever do want to play a Stasis-based deck. Twiddle, worked with, as I mentioned before, with the Twiddle Vault combo, so I got the Beta Twiddles in there. Merfolk Assassin, he's cool. I don't think I'm ever going to play him in a deck. I had an empty spot in the binder, so we got Merfolk Assassin, destroy target creature with Island Walk. Psychic Purge, there are some decks out there that want to make you discard with Hymn to Turok, with Mind Twist, with Disrupting Scepter. It's going to hit them in the face for 5, and if they're not, you can still deal 1 damage to any target. Sage of Latinam, card draw, sacrifice an artifact, draw some cards. Get into black now. We've got Demonic Tutor. It's any card you need when you need it for 2 extra mana. It's an auto include. A lot of decks will splash black just for these 2 cards. Mind Twist and Demonic Tutor, just because they're so good. If you can Mind Twist your opponent on turn 1 or turn 2, the game is pretty much over if you can hit them for 3 or 4 cards with like a Soul Ring, Mox, Lotus kind of thing, or Dark Rituals. Greed, card draw sometimes. For 1 black and 2 life, draw a card. Sometimes you need it. Black Knight, pro white, first strike. Can't be swords. That's a big thing. Dark Ritual, again, fast mana. Things you can do on turn 1 are gross with the Dark Ritual. You can hymn your opponent turn 1, plus do something else. You can cast a Hypnotic Spectre. Hypnotic Spectre on turn 1 is just backbreaking if they don't have a way to deal with it. Drain life, again, gains you life, does damage. It's good removal. It's a good card. Gloom, white hoser. You play those against white and they're in for a world of hurt. Hymn to Turok, crazy. Like 2 mana to make your opponent discard 2 cards. It's just backbreaking. Again, as we mentioned, Hypnotic Spectre. I got my 1 beta. I've had that since '94, and it's one of those cards. Even when I sold my collection, it's kind of funny. I sold everything back in 1998, and Hypnotic Spectre, the beta Hypnotic Spectre, a beta Pestilence, and my set of 4 Mizra's factories that I showed you were the only cards I kept, just because they had so much sentimental value to me. It's like I loved the Hypnotic Spectre. The Pestilence was just cool. And that's one card I actually didn't put in my binder was Pestilence. I do have them, and I'll probably put some into the toolbox. I just didn't think about it till just now. Order the Ebon Hand, again, pro white, similar to the Black Knight, Pump Knight. Paralyze, it's black removal, get stuff out of the game for a little bit, keep them tapped down. If they want to untap it, pay 4. So it's pseudo removal. Good card. Royal Assassin doesn't see a lot of play, but you can do some shenanigans with it. With like an Icy Manipulator, you tap their creatures, kill them, or even just they won't attack you because your Royal Assassin is just waiting in the wings. Underworld Dreams is a combo deck. Whenever your opponent draws a card, they take a damage. So you run Howling Minds, which I also don't have in this binder because I don't have enough Underworld Dreams at the moment to build that deck. So I need to pick up a couple Underworld Dreams, and then I have the Howling Minds to go with it. And it's just you run Howling Minds, Underworld Dreams, Vices. Send your Vampire, big flyer. It can trade with Sarah Angel. It can eat Hypnotic Specters, eat Flying Men, eat Serendib, Afreets. So it has some upside there. Terror, creatures can't regenerate. Get rid of your Sedge Trolls, your Woodland Trolls. Bye. The only downfall is it can't hit artifact creatures or black creatures, but there's still a lot of creatures out there you can hit with it. Premium removal. Weakness, a little bit more fringe. -2, -1 can make stuff weaker, or it can just outright kill. It's the smaller things. Derailleur, kind of you see this empty spot here. I do not own any Jizam Djinns. They are super expensive right now, and I do not want to put that kind of money into Jizam Djinn, so that's one deck I will not be able to play for a long time. But there's an honorary empty row there for the Jizam Djinn. Right now I've got some poor man's Jinn in here, some Derailleurs, but they only maybe normally see as like a one-off in some decks, where black isn't the key color. Atog, silently one of the most powerful creatures in the format. It's only a little 1/2 for 2, but yeah, that ability of 0, sacrifice an artifact, gets +2/+2. It can one-shot you out of nowhere if you're playing against an artifact deck and they decide, hey, I'm going to sack all 5 of my Moxes, take 11. Blood Moon, as I said, greedy mana bases, rough mana bases, a lot of decks are just running non-basic lands, and you can just totally hose them. And if they don't have a way of dealing with it, but their only way is going to be that Chaos Orb, unless they have like white mana to float for a disenchant or blue mana to float for the boomerang when this is coming down, then they're in for a world of hurt. Chain Lightning, just reach, damage. It's like the forgotten little brother of Lightning Bolt. Some decks can bounce it back to you, but odds are they won't. So it's just going to be 1 mana, 1 red, 3 damage. It is sorcery speed though, which makes it a little bit rougher. Here we've just got like some finishers, disintegrates, fireballs, earthquakes. Earthquakes deal with like the goblin armies, the little white weenie armies, and can just finish the game. If you're at a higher life total than your opponent, you got a lot of mana, it's like, die. Same thing with disintegrate. Either take out a threat, these will take out those regenerators, it'll take out the bigger creatures if you got the mana, and then fireball serves the same purpose. Fork, just iconic card. Fork a Time Walk, fork your Ancestral, 3 mana, draw 6, sure. Things along those lines. Flash Fires, again, another white hoser, destroys all planes. Detonate, just more artifact removal in red, but it also deals damage to your opponent. They've got something big. Can you imagine? They have a Suchi, you detonate their Suchi, they take 4 from the detonate, and then they take 4 from the Suchi whose mana they can't spend, so you lose your Suchi, take 8. Yeah. Kurt this is like an iconic card. We all know about Kurt 1/1 turns into a 2/3. Land's Edge, mentioned this before, as the tax edge deck. Throw a land, deal 2 damage. So a lot of decks will like throw a bunch of lands, draw a bunch of lands with land tax, throw them at you, cur them. Lightning Bolts, got a set of beta Lightning Bolts. I picked these up a while ago. One of my prized possessions, I guess, outside of my Power 9. Yeah, and what else to be said about Lightning Bolt? Red Elemental Blast. It's the red counterspell. Like, you can, if you want to protect your things from blue, Red Blast does it for 1. Sedge Trolls, I see a lot of play in the Disco Troll deck. That's the Nevinyrral's Disc. Trolls regenerate with their cousin of them. It's like, blow up the world, regenerate my trolls. Good game. Shatter. Red has a lot of artifact hate between Shatter, Shatterstorm. Artifacts are some of the most powerful things in Old School, so there you have it. Stone Rains. Land Destruction. Needed sometimes. We've already talked about Upton. Winds of Change sees play in that tax edge deck, along with a couple other decks, just to filter your hand. If you've drawn a bunch of lands you don't need, trade them in for other cards. Greens Crumble, green artifact removal. I have another Sylvan here. It's gold border. It's kind of iffy whether you can play it or not. I'm probably just going to pick up another Sylvan, but I threw that in there. Argothian Pixies. These guys are little beaters, little 2/1s. But they protect you from artifacts, so they'll block Mizra's factories all day long. Avoid Fate. Green's little trick in there to counter instant Aurora spells. Birds of Paradises. Iconic card. Ramp. What else can you say? Berserk with a spot beside it. I have another Berserk on order. Hopefully it's in the mail. So that should be filling this slot. Just double a creature's power. A lot of people forget about the removal side of it because it destroys a creature at the end of the turn. So if your opponent has something after it's attacked you and you need to get rid of it, you can Berserk it and it'll just die at the end of the turn. Concordant Crossroads, sometimes letting things come in with haste is amazing. Hurricane, similar to Earthquake. Finish the game, take out all those flyers that are bugging you. Urnum Djinns, powerhouse for 4, a 4/5. This thing's just a powerhouse. It's in the Urnum Geddon deck. It's in a few other decks. It's a powerhouse. If you can't deal with it, it's gonna give you a world of hurt. Sure, it gives something else. Force Walk, but if it's hitting you harder than what that thing's hitting you, then you don't really care. Giant Growth, Finisher, or Combat Trick. You pick. Iconic card. Same with Llanowar Elves. Ramp. Regrowth. Bring back anything in your graveyard. It's the best card in your graveyard when you need it. I have 2 Ice Storms. I want to pick up a couple more. They're a little bit pricey right now, but I have 2. A lot of decks you can get away with playing 2. Scavenger Folk, more artifact removal for green. Good old Scrib Sprites. We can say 1/1 flyer for 1. Get in there, get some poke damage in. Spitting Slug. It's 2/4. It's a body. Tranquility. Green's way of mass dealing with enchantments. You want to get rid of that Underworld Dreams, you want to get rid of that Blood Moon, whatever. Tranquility. A Whirling Dervish, pro black, so it survives the Abyss like the other cards, and it can just get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's got a song, punishing. You can punish people. They got a bunch of Moxes in play. You play this, they all die. Turns artifacts into creatures, they lose all abilities, and then their power and toughness are equal to their casting cost. So it either A, like, can wipe out your opponent's Moxes, turn off their powerful artifacts they're using against you, or in some cases, it can turn your artifacts into beaters. So turn your Jam de Tomes into a beater. Any large casting cost artifact, just turn it into a beater for you to finish off a game. Owls of Deep Shadow, more ramp, cool, evil looking little elves. Tap for black, deal opponent damage to you. Honk of Mizras, these are seen in like the Atog, the Dibitog decks. Whenever an opponent plays a land, or whenever anybody plays a land, sorry, deals 2 damage to them. So you kind of want to, like, you want them to keep their hands full, because you're playing this, you're playing the Onks, and you're playing Vices. So you want them to keep their hands full. So if it's like they play a land, they take damage. If they don't, the Vice is gonna do the damage to them. So it's kind of like a double threat. Disrupting Scepter, that forces your opponents to discard cards in a control deck. Felon's Cane, some decks have no way of cycling their graveyard, so just have that in there. It doesn't see a lot of play. Felwar Stones, tap for any color mana that your opponent can produce. A lot of times it's helpful. It's a mana rock. Icy Manipulators, I say iconic card. Can tap anything. Can deal with anything on the board. Just keep it tapped down. I have 1 Winter Orb in here. Can play this only untap 1 land during your untap phase. It's a prison card. Ivory Tower. Some decks when you're using your library, you want to stay 7, 8 cards. Ivory Tower is just gonna stay 7 cards, 8 at the beginning of your turn. If you tap at the end of their turn, you're just gonna gain so much life with Ivory Tower. You can just, some decks just can't deal with that life gain. Jam de Tome again. You set up a wall. You're in a control deck and just draw. Juggernaut, scary, 5/3. The original Bolt Bait, but this thing does a world of hurt if your opponent can't deal with it. The Mineral's Discs, kind of mentioned the Disco Troll deck before, or any other deck that just can't deal with enchantments and may throw one of these in. Suchi, very powerful creature, with does have a huge downside, as I mentioned before. Mana burn is in Eternal Central, and so if someone destroys this and you don't have a way to deal with sync that mana, you're going to take 4 damage. But it's a 4/4 for 4. It can win you the game quick. One little cheat, if you don't know about it, is to just send the mana into your Wizard's Factories. Activate. Triskelion, I have 1 in the mail. I was missing 1. It's guaranteed to deal 3 damage to your opponent. Or it can deal with their creatures. It's like 6 mana. Comes into play with 3+1 counters. Remove 1, destroy, or deal 1 damage. So even if they go to destroy it, it's always gonna deal 3 damage. And there's some decks where you can like recur it, where you can trade 1 for another. You spend the 3, trade 1 out of your graveyard. Tetravis, fun little creature, 4/4 flyer for 6, but you can turn it into 4/1/1s basically and go wide. Relic Barrier, I have 3 more in the mail. It's a prison style. Tap your opponent's artifacts down. Tap their Moxes down during their upkeep so that they limit their mana during their main phases. Things along those lines. Mana Vault, Mana Ramp. Not seen a lot of decks, but if you need fast ramp, it's there. The Hive, some control decks. It's a finisher. You can pump out the little wasps, and then last is the Aeliopile. Deal 2 damage to any target. So if you need some reach, things along those lines, there it is. So that was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. We're at a 30-minute mark here. Hope you guys enjoyed this kind of walk through my old school toolkit. Again, like I said, let me know if you think I missed anything, something I should pick up. Maybe I already have it and I just didn't think about it. Or if I helped you out here and seeing some cards that, oh wow, I forgot about that card. I should pick that up, or I do have that in my collection. Let me add that to my own toolbox. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. Like I said, I'm diving into this format now. I've been doing a lot of studying, and like I said, Edwin the Magic Engineer is a great resource, and you can just dive deep, go deep from there. So this was fun going through these cards. Just puts a smile on my face. And until next time, as always, be safe and have fun.